Strangest thing today. I was finishing washing the dishes after dinner, and one of the last things to clean out was a small bottle that used to contain jam. It was repurposed to contain some fish sauce with lime. It had been in the fridge for about a week or so. Today, I was looking for that bottle to use the sauce with some meal, but I couldn't find it and assumed it must have been thrown out. After dinner, as I was in the middle of washing, my father had been looking in the fridge to sort what needed to be thrown out for the recycling bin and found the small bottle of sauce I was looking for and put it beside the sink for it to be thrown out and washed. It was the last item I had to clean, and the sink was already cleared, so I twisted open the bottle and poured out the sauce. As I poured it out, I noticed two little pieces of material come out. I thought the sauce had gone bad and they were some type of fungus and ignored them and let them get washed to the drain catcher. After I soaped and washed the bottle, I proceeded to empty the drain catcher, and that's where I noticed. They were two earrings that fell out of the bottle. I picked them up and asked the only two ladies in the household if it belonged to them. Neither of them have ever owned a pair that looked like what I showed them. When the fish sauce was poured into that bottle a week ago, it was empty, and no one else in the household uses those bottles for anything else. I'm baffled as to where those earrings came from and how they came to be in the small bottle of fish sauce in the fridge. I will post pictures as an update at a later time in case we get a post about missing earrings. This happened when I was flying back from New Zealand to Europe via Dubai, so the long flight was Auckland-Dubai in 2019. Haven't been able to make sense of it since. Usually I'm an awful sleeper when on public transport. I'd been on long flights and bus rides before, and I never managed to shut an eyelid for longer than a few minutes. I'd wake up constantly in between because something was hurting, itching, I had to pee, etc. On my way to New Zealand, I slept for maybe 4 hours with a lot of waking up in between. It wasn't jet lag either, because this was the first half of the flight. There was nothing to be jet lagged about yet. So anyway, I was sat next to this nice lady from Yorkshire who was considering moving to New Zealand for retirement. We shared life stories, spent quite a bit talking at the airport where we'd met through coincidence, not knowing we'd sit next to each other. And when I decide to lean to the wall and listen to some music, the flight monitor tells me it's 15 hours, 39 minutes to go. I put in my headphones, leaned back, closed my eyes, listened to around 3 songs, opened my eyes again, and suddenly the flight monitor was saying 5 hours, 30 minutes. It wasn't a monitor glitch. It really was only 5 more hours until we landed in Dubai. But I can't have slept for 10 hours. The lady next to me was in the same pose she'd been before. I wasn't in a comfortable enough position to sleep. My phone was playing the same song it had been at the same second mark. It hadn't even lost any battery percentage. I didn't have to go to the toilet despite drinking a lot before. My screen and app usage history, which I checked because I was confused as fuck, hadn't gone up in minutes. There is no record of those 10 hours ever having passed. It was so weird. I'm a healthy young person, and there's no way I'd just pass out for 10 hours straight. But we can't just have taken a shortcut from Auckland to Dubai. I'm still looking for explanations and have none. Nothing similar ever happened since. My husband passed away on April 5th. Ever since then, I've had some strange things happen. Let me first say that I was the only person in my apartment when these things happened, and I was not under the influence of anything. The first thing was the plastic baggie incident. When I cleaned out his nightstand, I found tons of empty plastic baggies. I have no clue why he felt the need to keep them. I laughed and threw them out because I was preparing to move, and I certainly didn't have any use for them. I should mention that our bedroom was directly across the hall from the front door, so I had no need to walk through the house with the baggies. The next morning, I found an empty baggie sitting on my coffee table in the living room. I was sure I had not taken it in there. It couldn't have been one of my own baggies because it was a different size and brand than the one I use. The second thing was the trash bag incident. I had a huge roll of black trash bags that I was using to pack most of my clothes and also to bag up some stuff for Goodwill. One day, I went to grab a trash bag and the whole roll was just gone. I literally turned the apartment upside down because I moved and I never found them. I know damn well I didn't throw them out. I needed them to pack up and move. The third thing was the joint incident. My husband enjoyed smoking weed from time to time, and he had a small joint left over when he passed. I don't smoke it, so I had no reason to bother with it. One day I looked at the spot where I was keeping it, and it was gone. I'd love to think it was my husband giving me signs that he's okay and that he's still with me. Maybe this wasn't a glitch, but maybe a dimensional shift? I don't know. If this is the wrong place, let me know, and I'll remove it. It's not an award-worthy story by any means, and certainly isn't shocking, but it is my first time realizing a glitch or change. So my husband and I have been together 10 years. In all the time we've been together, he would eat his shrimp po' boy with only mayo, hot sauce, lettuce, and tomato. I know this for certain because he has always picked on me for putting ketchup on mine. Tonight, he made shrimp po' boys. I walk in to see he has ketchup next to him and that it's on his po' boy, and I pick at him. "Ha ha! All this time you've made fun of me for eating ketchup on my shrimp po' boys, and now you're doing it. I just realized that I'm right and they're better that way." He says, "What are you talking about? I've always put ketchup on my shrimp po' boys ever since I was in college doing an internship at the power company." I was just floored. I told him that he's mistaken. He tells me a specific story of the first time he had it. I realize in the moment this must be a glitch or something because not only do I specifically remember moments of him picking on me and what he said, but I also tried 3 times to eat my po' boy his way without ketchup and him asking if it was better. Now I'm just confused as fuck. Anyway, that's it. That's my completely underwhelming story of my first glitch, I think. This is a bit silly compared to some life-changing glitches you guys experience, but it still has me baffled. Happened just a moment ago. So a week ago, I was on a flight wearing a white blouse. They served food, and long story short, I got a couple stains on the front. Once I got back home, I put all the clothes in the wash, including the blouse, but when I got it out to hang it to dry, I don't have a dryer, I noticed the stain was still there. Just a different hue of yellow, but it makes sense since it was probably turmeric and does that when exposed to alkali. So I hung it over the back of a chair to treat the spot with bleach and wash it again when I'm washing whites. So I'm going to wash whites today. I grabbed the blouse, but the stain isn't there. Weird. I have a closer look at the stain, and it is on the blouse, but somehow it's on the back now. Same shape. Big stain and a smaller one next to it, paler and a different hue than when it originally got stained, but then again turmeric, but definitely on the back. The front is pristine, no trace of stain, and believe me, I looked very hard. So I started thinking on what could have happened. 1. I wore the blouse back to front accidentally that day and actually stained the back. Impossible. The blouse has a rather big cutout at the front and prominent tag in the back, so even if I somehow managed to put it on the other way, someone would have told me. The blouse was 100% on correctly. 2. The actual stain from the plane washed off, and the stain on the back is an unrelated stain. Very, very unlikely the stain is the same shape. Actually, 2 stains, and placement as the one I got. I had a good look because I was super self-conscious about it, and I was constantly checking if it was very visible. It was. There's nowhere it could have gotten additionally stained, too. I put it in the wash the same day. 3. The stain somehow transferred to the other side of the fabric. I don't know, is this possible? Without leaving any trace of the original stain? Also, the fabric is more saturated on the outside, which would only make sense if the stain was made from the outside, and if it transferred, I assume it would be from the inside? So yeah, that's my boring laundry glitch. I gotta wash out the glitchy stain and hope it doesn't just transfer elsewhere. In the wash. One afternoon, I was running some errands for myself and noticed a woman standing in front of an apartment building. She was busy with her phone while her shopping bags were lying on the ground surrounding her legs. Suddenly, I heard the sound of a tree branch. I looked towards the tree that was a bit further from both of us and noticed the same woman coming out from behind the tree and walking towards the same apartment building. She wore the same clothes, same shoes, and carried the same shopping bags. At that moment, I thought to myself, what would happen when the lady standing next to me finishes messing with her phone and walks towards the building? Will she freak out to meet herself at her apartment or just be excited she now has 2 of everything she bought? A week earlier, I was walking home and noticed a woman walking towards me. This time, she looked exactly like me. She wore the same clothes, same shoes, same everything. She didn't notice me since she was chatting with a guy who walked beside her. I didn't freak out or anything. I was just envious since that girl seemed happy while I was born depressed. Okay, so let me preface this by saying since about 1999-2000, I've been getting accused of being places, having conversations I don't remember, etc. This other me always drives the same car I have. I think the 2 of us have been swapping back and forth for 2 decades. Until this past autumn, it hadn't happened for several years. Then in October, I was getting phone calls or people telling me later they saw me somewhere and that they were calling to me, but I ignored them. On to the main reason I came to post this. In November, I was in a horrible car accident. My BFF lives about a mile from me. We were leaving my house and heading to hers. She left about 2 minutes before me, her 12-year-old daughter with her. About a minute after I left, she called to tell me she was stopping at the gas station and that I needed to get over into the right lane because there's a really bad accident blocking the left lane. She says it's weird because one of the vehicles in the accident looks exactly like mine. We hung up right before I went through an intersection about a quarter mile from the gas station and the intersection where the accident was. I set the phone next to me, and the next thing I know, I can only describe as my soul or life force being forcefully sucked back into my body. My left leg is pinned under the dashboard and the windshield is on top of me. I was somehow instantly transported 6 blocks to an accident that happened before I was even on that street. My BFF and her daughter say there is no way this could have happened because they passed the accident while on the phone with me. The people who stopped to help all said they didn't know what happened and didn't see anything. The street was full of cars. It was rush hour on a main street. When I say my van was totaled, I mean that no one knows how I survived. I had to be cut out of it. Once I was out of the hospital, I started noticing little things being just off. I just can't put my finger on what it is that's not right. I feel like I'm in a different reality, be it ever so slightly different. I think maybe my alt died and I lived, I don't know. But I can't figure out how the accident happened or how I went from one intersection to another in a split second, or how my BFF and her 12-year-old daughter saw it while they were on the phone with me, telling me about it. This whole situation is driving me nuts, and maybe somewhere I have kids that are mourning their mother. Right before the accident was when several people said they saw me, and since the accident no one has seen her, and I don't know if anyone ever will. This is all just blowing my mind, and whenever I try to tell someone about it, they look at me like I need a padded room and 24/7-hour care. I'd probably think that too if I didn't have independent witnesses. Edit. I absolutely can't believe I forgot this part. So last year I filed my taxes and got my refund. Needed to file an amendment and was told I'd get it by early August. August comes and goes and nothing. No one can tell me jack. I forget about it. This whole time, the van that was wrecked, I had a massive hole in the radiator, among other major things that weren't worth fixing, so the amendment was going to get me to my new car. Well, accident happens. I can't leave my house for 3 months due to injury and panic attacks at the suggestion. February rolls around, and in the middle of the night, I see an envelope on the floor next to my bed. I open it, and it's the damned amendment check, finally. No one knows where it came from, and everyone swears it was never in the mailbox. Anyways, a few weeks prior to this, my BFF, same one from above, who works at a mechanic shop, casually mentions she bought a 2001 Pontiac Aztek at a ridiculous price to resell there. My jaw drops. That vehicle is number 3 on my all-time list. I've literally wanted one since 2001. It was one owner, almost in brand new condition. I was fretting for 3 weeks how to get the money to buy it because they weren't going to hold it. Boom, comes the check. At the exact time I can now leave my house, at the exact time that car shows up. If I had gotten it back in August, I probably would have fixed the van problems because it would have been easier and cheaper. So all that crap happens with the accident, and then this was my silver lining. A vehicle that was only manufactured for 5 years and barely sold any and was touted as the car that killed Pontiac. Like that was what made this whole thing even weirder. Plus, I paid half what it was worth because of the hookup from BFF. Basically paid for the repair to it that the other owner didn't want to pay for. This car's gonna be buried with me, y'all. So, yeah, that's the weird-ass more than a coincidence rest of ending to the story. Sorry I forgot all that before, but there it is in all its perfectly timed madness. And honestly, if it meant I ended up with the Aztek, I'd do the whole thing over. Broken body and never having answers. All of it. I was taking a shower and just staring aimlessly at the shower head, dreaming and pondering of the things that one ponders of during a shower. The shower head had a mirrored surface, and I slowly realized that though I was staring directly at it, my reflection's eyes were looking off to the left. For a moment or two, I wondered how that was possible and what trick of the beveling was causing my reflection to be looking away, when suddenly my reflection's eyes shifted and looked directly at me. And they continued to return my gaze for the rest of the shower as if nothing awry had been happening. It's never happened before or since. I've been on a bit of a binge of these stories, and it made me wonder if I had experienced anything like this, and I thought back and realized I have, although not as freaky or crazy as most. I'm quite a skeptical person, but this always has me at a loss. My girlfriend's family lives a little ways away, and so often I'll drive us over to visit with them. Without fail, and I mean every time, when we leave back home, and for some reason only when we leave the town to head back home, this man is out walking his dog at the exact same position. Now, sure, it could of course just be his routine and I'm just having a timing coincidence, right? Nah, we're talking it could be 3 p.m. or it could be 11 p.m., and he is still always cutting the corner exactly when we pass, as if he's spawning in. It's so odd, it's like seeing it replayed over and over and always so consistent. We always mention it on the way back and check, and without fail, he's there. I play a lot of games, and I swear to you if this was happening in a game, I'd be complaining about the lack of NPC variety. One of these days, I'm going to just be brave and pull over and just politely ask how frequently he walks his dog. Who knows? Maybe he's thinking, damn, every time I'm walking my dog, that white car passes. Hey there, folks. Thanks for listening. If you like what you heard and you haven't subscribed already, please do subscribe. About half of you who listen aren't subscribed, and I'd really like to get to 500 subscribers, and maybe to 1,000 would be awesome. So if you could subscribe and hit that like button, that would be greatly appreciated. And if you have a suggestion or simply want to say hello, please leave a message. I love to hear what you guys have to say. And if you have a story of your own you'd like to share and possibly have read on the channel, send it to me at veronica45stories@gmail.com. Link is also in the description, as are other ways to support the channel if you feel so inclined. I post 2 to 3 times a week as often as I can. I appreciate you being here beyond measure. And until next time, be good.